If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories surrounding fitness and self-improvement which you can apply to your life today. So for those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I am your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can make 2024 your most transformative year yet. And the way you're going to do that is through your habits. And these habits I'm about to share with you on this podcast. Because one thing I've found throughout the past kind of 6 or 7 years of my own improvement, my own self-improvement journey, has been that everything comes from habits. And I want to share with you some very powerful habits that you can take into this year, which inevitably are going to leave you in a super strong position come the end of this year. So this could be a really good timing for you if you're looking to make this year your best year yet, which I'm sure you are. You're listening to this episode for a reason from here. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode was because people often think of the big things that are going to transform them and everything like that, but it tends to be the small tasks, the small habits over a long period of time that create sustainable change. And James Clear says it really well. I've got a quote here and he says, if successful and unsuccessful people share the same goals, then the goal cannot be what differentiates them, the winners from the losers. So basically what he's saying there is everybody has goals. Everybody wants to, what made this my best year yet? I want to end up this way. I want to end up that way. But what actually makes you end up in the position where you want to be? What is the difference between you succeeding and you losing? And it comes back to your habits, your actions, the things you're doing on a daily basis. Because if you do them on a daily and a weekly basis and you're doing them for a whole year, that creates huge change. So it's not going to be one big thing which is going to change you in a week, but these are going to be things that if you do throughout the full part of this year, by the end of the year, you'll be completely different, and it'll push you forward to becoming the type of person that you want to be. Because as I said, it's the small actions that determine the quality of our lives, determine how we end up in life. Now, the very first one of these habits, it's more of an action, what you can do, and it's something called via negativa, which is a Latin phrase, and it is the study of what not to do. So this should be your very first thing. In my opinion, going into this year, if you've looked back at the past year and you're not happy with it, you want to make this year better, you should look at, okay, what shouldn't I be doing? Because how many times have you looked and said, well, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. There's a million things that you could and should probably be doing. However, they won't impact you as much as what you shouldn't be doing. So like the things that have got you into this position right now, whatever's brought this kind of chaos, destruction, inconsistency into your life, you first need to remove that. That needs to be taken out of your life. And that's what this concept of via negativa does. It allows us to look at bad habits and remove them. So I've just said to you there that you basically, these small things that we do dictate who we become. Whereas if they're bad habits, they may seem small at the time, but by the end of the year, they'll have stopped you from taking action. They'll have led to inconsistency. So that's why we're really going to focus on this first. And yeah, as I've said this a million times before, people are always chasing what to add in. So always like, I want to add in this, I'm going to add this. You're always looking for new things. Particularly if you come off a kind of down slope, a downward trend, you're like, right, it's time to change. They first think, what should I bring in? And again, the case is what you should remove. Now, one way to do that is what is holding you back most? It's not an easy question to ask, and the majority of people will not be able to find that answer straight away. So one thing that can help you do that is something called a negativity audit. Now, in the simplest form, all you can do is basically look at your week, look at the actions and the tasks, everything you're doing in a week, and look at it and think, right, does this give me energy? Does this make me more positive? Does this push me forward, or does it hold me back? Okay, of course, it could be neither of those things, that's fine. But look at your week, look at your months and think, right, what things are actually pushing me forward? What's bringing me back? Is the fact that you're drinking every single weekend holding you back? Or are you able to go out, have a couple of pints, you're fine the next day, it doesn't impact your work, whatever it happens to be. Again, this is where people will start to lie with themselves. They'll start to say, I'm not really that bad and everything like that. If that's the case, you'll never change. This is why we need to take time. We need to dissect these things and realize what it really is that's holding you back. That's the whole point in via negativa. So look at that. Look at your weeks. Look at your months. Look at what made this year necessarily, what stopped you from pushing forward. And then you can look to remove that. Because again, once we remove things, we can push forward. Because if you were to do nothing this year, right? If you were to add nothing, but you were to remove the bad, I guarantee you'll finish this year in a stronger position than where you are now. I guarantee it. Like, you look at any big transformation, look at somebody you admire. A lot of people come from hardship or difficulty or addiction or something like that. It tends to be bad habits. It's something that's causing all of that. And it's only when they remove all of those things that they're able to push on forward. It's not saying like, oh, well, I started going to the gym 5 times a week and that's what made me the person I am. Did it help? Of course. But it was taking the addictions, it was taking the excessive alcohol, the drugs they were taking, it's taking all that out of their life, which caused the biggest transformation. Because the bad habits that you have in your life act as a chain, they hold you back. And you might make a little bit of progress, but those bad habits will pull you back into it. So again, it's definitely not an easy route. It's not as simple as saying like, oh, remove that habit and it'll be removed in a week. But as soon as you notice them, which you can do for that negativity audit, you can start to work on removing them. For example, the first quarter of your year could be focused on that, on removing bad habits. And that can start by reducing them. So if you find that you're in a position where you're drinking too often and it's causing you to, like, the next 2 or 3 days of your life are basically ruined, you're not going to the gym, you're not feeling good, you're in a worse mood, so you're taking that out on people around you, so your relationships are worse because of it, then of course that's a negative thing you need to remove. However, if it's something you've been doing for years, you're not just going to be able to click your fingers and stop. So what you would like to do is reduce that in the beginning. And in a couple of months, a few months down the line, hopefully we can be at the stage where you can remove that. And then again, that will lead to later in the year, you be in a better position than where you started from there. So that's the first kind of habit, the first kind of tip that I would do going into this new year. Something that I always look to do. And again, it's not easy to look at the negative. It never is, but that tends to be where the most growth is in the negative and removing the negative, or at least reducing it. So make sure that's one of the first things you do this year. The next one would come after we do that. After we notice what the bad things are, after we notice what we need to remove is, we then try to reverse engineer habits. Now, to you might find that sounds a little bit strange. What does engineering have to do with habits? What I mean by that is we look at an end outcome. So you look at the end of your year. Let's say you want to get a better job, or you just want to become more disciplined. Well, both of those things, how would you get both of those things? So if it's a better job, you could look at somebody that's in a higher up position than you, and you could, right, how did they get there? Or you could look at somebody that's more disciplined than you, and you think, how did they become that disciplined person? And then what you do is you reverse engineer off of it. So you go to the end point, which is the point where you want to be, the type of person you want to become, and then you reverse engineer off of it. So you find the steps that it takes. Because relating to the first step that I just spoke about with Via Negativa and even before that, people just, they set goals. They don't set steps in order to get them there. They think, oh, I'm going to become more disciplined this year. I'm going to lose loads of weight this year. I'm going to get a better job this year. But what is actually going to do that for you? Because you're just all talk if that's what you're saying. Whereas if you look at the end position, a type of person you want to become or a position that you want to be in, and you think, right, what would it take to get there? That's how you actually find out how you're going to get there. So if it's becoming more disciplined, it could be getting up early, it could be training more regularly, it could be sticking to your nutritional plan, whatever it happens to be, that's then giving you steps which you can then follow and get to. So that's a huge habit that's really it's played a huge part in my life in laying the kind of groundwork to transformation, to getting better, is the idea of reverse engineering. I do it with all of my goals now. Because of course I still set goals, but the most important thing is I get the steps in order to achieve them. So I'm not terribly focused on a goal and the end result, but I'll get a rough position of where I want to be or who I want to become, whatever I want to get better at, a skill that I want to develop. I'll look at someone, or I'll imagine the type of person I want to be, and I'll say, right, what would it take in order to get that? So already we have 2 very big questions that you can ask for yourself going into the new year. The first one was the Via Negativa. It's what shouldn't you be doing this year? What should you stop doing? And then once you realize that, you can ask, okay, well, who do I want to become by the end of the year? Those are 2 really big questions that could make this your most transformative year yet. Because if you're someone that's new to self-improvement, you've never asked yourself that before. Let's be serious. Who asks themselves that? It's not a normal thing to ask. But by doing that and being honest with it, that is going to allow us to progress forward from there. Now again, bringing it back to the people that inspire us, think of the people that inspire you most. And take inspiration from that. Those are the people that you can reverse engineer from. People that are in positions where you want to be, what did they do to get there? Now, one thing that I got confused by, and this is something that Alex Hormozi brought up, and it's really, really is a really clever point, And it's the sense that don't look at the people who are in the position where you want to be and do what they're doing right now. Now, what I mean by that is this. Let's say Jeff Bezos, right? He owned Amazon. He started Amazon. I was listening to a podcast he was on today, and he's a great guy, and he was basically being asked about what he does in his life and everything like that. And he says, right, what's your daily routine look like? And he says, well, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll read a newspaper, or I'll scroll my phone, I'll read some news, I'll do something like that, I'll respond to a couple of emails, whatever, which is great. But if you were somebody that wanted to start a company like Amazon, that is not what you're going to be doing. If you think that Jeff Bezos was in the beginning reading a newspaper when he first got up, then you're mistaken. That wasn't what got him to where he is now. That is just where he is now. So again, don't be kind of caught in that trap by looking at your icons or those who inspire you most, and they've got this cool routine. They're meditating in the morning, they go for a cold shower, they do all these things in the morning. Listen, that might not be what got them there. That's what they're doing now. But what was it that got them there? What was the hard graft? What were the tasks that actually pushed them forward? And that's what you then have to do. So don't get stuck into that, because again, I found it really interesting when Jeff Bezos was saying that, because in the beginning, it won't be as pretty as it sounds. He would have just been, working. It would have been straight up in the morning, straight to work. So that is something you can look at. So what got the person to where they are now, not necessarily what they are doing right now. That's one really good way to do it. Because if you think about podcasts, you think about audiobooks, why do you listen to them? Most likely because there's somebody that's in a position where you want to be, or they have information that you want to have. So you can look at these things and these people, realize how they got there, and then start to copy that for yourself. Because nothing needs to be like, you don't need to be completely original in life. Like, people copy people all the time. There's a really good idea of it, and it's vesseling. Like, people vessel other people's ideas. Okay, so look to others for inspiration, and then again, you reverse engineer off the back of it from there. The next thing has been one of the most important habits that I've ever took on in my life, in the sense of it's helped me push forward, it's helped me remain consistent, it's helped me remain clear-minded, it gave me clarity in my journey, it gives me clarity with my work, it gives me clarity in my own improvement, with my training, with everything. And it's something as simple as planning your weeks. Now, if you've got to this stage in your life without using a diary, I don't know how you've done it, first of all. Because to me, it's one of the best things you can do. If you do not use a diary on a daily basis and a weekly basis, it could be transformative. And again, it sounds like something that your dad would say to you or something like that, or start using a diary so you don't forget this and that, but it's so much more than that. Your diary is like your centerpiece. It's something where if you rely on your brain all the time and you're storing kind of facts and dates and everything like that, you're going to forget things. And you'll get annoyed at that. I used to be like that all the time. I'd say, oh, what's that thing I learned? Oh, what's that thing I've got next week? What's this thing I've got to do? Oh, I don't know, because I expected my mind to remember it. There's a quote that says, use your mind for thinking, not as a warehouse for facts. And it's so true. You should get things out of your mind straight away, and a diary is a really good way to do that. So I used multiple different diaries, which sounds confusing, but I never just started with multiple diaries. I used one, and then over the years, I brought in more diaries. For example, I've got one for my PT clients, one for my actual work, and I have one that's more kind of self-improvement focused for the time that I basically got out of work and everything like that. And I managed to use them both really well. But with this kind of like planning your weeks and everything like that, it allows us to actually get shit done, because what doesn't get planned often doesn't get done. So if you want to, like we said in the past one, if you've planned, if you've reverse engineered and you want to become a certain type of person by doing a certain type of thing, you need to do that thing. And the only way to do that is to plan it. So one way I do that is I have these set tasks that I go through at the start of my week to plan my diary. One of those, the very first one, is I put my non-negotiables into my diary. So obviously I have like 7 days in my diary, in my written diary, and then I'll put in my non-negotiables. So let's say my non-negotiables are to train X amount of times a week, check in with my clients, do X, Y, and Z. Basically, the shit that I need to do to get where I need to be. There's other stuff that would help, but this shit needs to be done. That's the first thing that goes in. And again, by planning it, you're giving yourself much more chance of actually going ahead and do it. Don't just expect yourself to do things, especially if you're in the beginning of your journey. You need to actually plan these things. And by using a diary, you can do that. Again, it also allows you to actually just like not expect yourself to remember things. Because as I said, I was getting myself and I was being like, oh, you forgot this, you forgot that. I was becoming unreliable because I wasn't using a diary. So again, don't expect yourself to remember things. Use a diary from there, because it allows us to then put our priorities in first, keep track of things, and you'll just be more organised from there. Now, in terms of what you can use going forward, I use Google Calendar and I use a written diary. I would start with Google Calendar. If you're on your phone all the time, you're going to use Google Calendar because it never goes anywhere without you, your phone. So you'd have your calendar with you everywhere. So Google Calendar is super simple. It allows you to put in recurring tasks. So for example, you could put in your shifts every week. Now, I'm not saying you're going to forget them, but it allows you to look at your week in a structured manner and say, okay, I have 4 hours after work this day. I have 5 hours after work this day, X, Y, and Z. This is my free time. This is what I'm going to fill my training, my reading, my X, Y, and Z. Whatever those tasks are that you need to push you forward with, that's when you plan them in. So Google Calendar is a really good way to do that. You get very basic diary apps as well on iPhone. You could use any of them, but Google Calendar is free. I know a lot of people that use it. I've used it for well over a year now, and it is one of my favourite things that I've ever done. So again, if you do not use a diary, you need to use one this year. It'll make you so much more organised. It'll make you so much more almost like goal-orientated. Not just goal-orientated, but actual action-orientated, because you're planning things into your life. You're not just expecting yourself to do things at certain times. Now, the next and the last one is one that over the past couple of years has become more apparent to me, the importance of it, and it is committing to a pursuit, something like a goal, a purpose, something to make you better. So you think of every other year, you have set goals, but you've not been on a pursuit. You thought, oh, well, I want to lose weight, or I want to do this. But a pursuit is something that is continuous. It keeps going. You're chasing something. And in my case, it's constant improvement. It never ends. It's constant. It always gives me purpose into my life. And that's what we're really looking at here with a pursuit. It gives you more purpose to your year. It gives you more purpose to your goals. Now, one thing that you can do with that is basically find out a reason why you're doing something. Like, why are you trying to get better? That's your pursuit. Like for me, I am trying to become a more disciplined person. I am trying to build my businesses. I am trying to build a physique. I'm trying to get better at loads of different things because I found that it makes me pretty happy. I enjoy doing it. It makes me more fulfilled. All of these things. So that's my pursuit. I'm trying to pursue improvement in all of those things. It gives my year structure. It gives my year purpose. And it means that my goals are more than just an empty kind of saying from there. And one easy way you can do this is just saying, well, what do you want to get better at this year? And again, I always say like, oh, lose weight, get a better job, do this, do that. But it could be something simple, like I want to be more reliable. I want to be better with time in terms of being on time for things. I want to be a better partner, whatever it happens to be, any of these things. I tend to find that the best things that we can develop are like traits. So for example, the disciplined one I use all the time. I want to be better at that. Maybe it's you want to be better with your emotions. Maybe you want to be better at controlling anger. These things are things that you can push forward with and you can pursue improvement in each of them from there. Now, with all of them, it requires some form of structure, some form of plan. So if we take the example of a physique and improving your physique, whether it's losing weight or building muscle or both of them, you need some form of plan. Because if we go into the year saying, right, I've removed these bad habits, I pictured the person I want to be, I need to do X, Y, and Z. What's the plan that's going to take you there? Like, what are you going to do? Like, yes, you want to train 4 times a week and stuff. That's great. Those are steps you need to do. But what are you actually going to do in those 4 days? What's your routine? What's your structure? That's where you could get a training program, for example. You get something like that to keep you structured to it. Like, if a training program is something you need, you drop me a DM, I'll give you one for free. Again, you'll get, literally, I'll give you something like that for free. Anything you need, you'll get these things everywhere. For free. But again, this just gives you more consistency, more planning, more structure. If you've got something there to actually pursue, you have a training program to pursue, you have a trait that you want to pursue and improve at, it gives so much more purpose to your year. And that's one of the big things I want you to take away from this episode is if you want to make this year a really fucking big year for you, like you want to take these habits, you want to become better, and you want to make it your best one yet, that's really how you're going to do it. You need that structure to do that. And we're going to do that. We bring that structure and it gives us purpose, which will make your year so much better from there. Now, to take away from today's episode, before I leave you with a very good quote, we have a few things. So first of all, I'll mention this. Think of the things that you need to avoid. They're the things that bring the chaos, the inconsistency into your life. They're what make you what you are right now, the version of you that you're not quite happy with. Take them out of your life. Focus on them and focus on removing them. Once you have done that, either pick a trait that you want to embody, a person you want to be like, something you want to be better at, find somebody that's done it, and reverse engineer off the back of it. So again, any of those goals, if it's somebody that's built a really good physique, reverse engineer, what are the successful steps that got them there? And then you can bring them into your life from there. Next one is to plan your weeks. Again, I've spoke about how beneficial that was to my life, how impactful it was to my life. Planning your weeks, it will keep you more consistent. It will give you more clarity in your own pursuit. And it's just, it stops you from fucking up, basically. It stops you from, like, for example, for me, I was never on time for things. I was always forgetting things. But bringing that into my life completely changed it from there. And the last one is commit to a pursuit. Try to think of that end goal, that purpose, and try to pursue it relentlessly. Just get better at it, work on it. Give yourself some structure for that, whether it's a training program, whether it's something you can follow, and that will bring that kind of purpose into your life, which a lot of people are missing when they're trying to improve. They're missing a little bit of purpose there. Now, the quote I want to leave you with is a pretty simple one, but it's about kind of purpose and it's about life, and it's a simple one that people often get confused by. And it's this. It says, life has no meaning. It's our job to give it meaning. It's up to us. Fate will keep it interesting. And what that means is this. It's like people always say, oh, what's meaning? What's my meaning in life? What's the purpose? Whatever. You give it that. You create that. Like, nobody's going to tell you what it is. You're the one that's going to create that. And with fate, and obviously we can't control a lot of the things that are going to happen to us, that'll keep it interesting. That'll help you build. Like, things will, for example, you could be like, right, this is what I'm going to try and pursue. This is what I'm going to try and get better at. I'm going to try and become this type of person. Shit will happen. But again, that's only going to make you better if you respond to it in the right way, because there's always going to be things that we can't control, and that's what fate will do. And that just keeps it interesting from there. So I think that's a really important point, because people will get to this point. There's a really good book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he talks about it in that. Viktor Frankl, he talks about kind of like purpose and stuff like that. Nobody's going to give you it. You can create it, and that's what you can do in 2024. You can create more purpose. You can follow some of those habits. You can take the best bits, the facts that you like, the bits that you don't do already. You can bring that into your life, and it'll give you more purpose this year to help you pursue improvement and build that kind of life that you want to through those habits from there. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you found something valuable there, something that you can take into this new year and again add to your routine and pursue improvement in. Again, as ever, if you can, make sure to like this episode on Spotify. If you could rate it, I would really, really appreciate that. We're up at 32 ratings now, so you can push us further up there. It really helps push out the podcast. I would appreciate it. And as ever, I hope you continue in your pursuit of and constant improvement. And again, thank you for listening to this episode.